The Moore Show is in partnership with Ozark Mountain Publishing, taking readers beyond the unexplained.
If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The Moore Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.
The Moore Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms. The comments and views expressed on The Moore Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The Moore Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Paula Harris is an Italian-American photojournalist and investigative reporter in the field of extraterrestrial-related phenomenal research. She is also a widely published freelance writer, especially in Europe. She has studied extraterrestrial-related phenomena since 1979 and is on a personal term with many of the leading researchers in the field. From 1980 to 86, she assisted Dr. J. Allen Hynek with his UFO investigations and has interviewed many top military witnesses concerning their involvement in the government truth embargo. Paula Harris, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin. It's really wonderful to be here.
Oh, Paula, thank you so much for joining us, and you look fantastic as well. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
No, it's really, I mean, I know how busy that you are. You know, we've had off-air conversations not too long ago, and you know, you keep really active, don't you, with all your research work?
Well, yeah, because, you know, I'm an international journalist, and the day after tomorrow, I leave for Rome for a month. Rome and Belgium, actually. So I'm speaking in Rome on the 23rd, and then I'm speaking on the Adriatic coast in Italy on the 4th of July, and I'm speaking in Italian. Italy is my home.
Yes, of course it is. And but you're actually based in America, is that right?
Well, I came back to America to retire. I have two grown children here, but I was born in Italy. My dad was the Italian consul for the state of Rhode Island. Most of my relatives are there. And I spent a period of time from 1992 to 2007 there. And I've got to tell you, Kevin, I could really work better from abroad than I can from here. The subject is so much more open, and it's so much more intellectual in Europe.
Do you think so, really?
Yes, because here, when you walk into any conference, the first thing you see is T-shirts and tinfoil hats and alien earrings and the big blow-up alien outside. And if you had a scientist or if you had people in the media, they wouldn't be caught there. I mean, that's not a place that's inviting. Where I spoke in Barcelona, Spain in 2009, and we had 1,400 people in this auditorium. And when they came into the auditorium, most of them were professors and scientists and older people that had done a lot of reading. You don't get that here. It's more commercial. America is very commercialized.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you have to understand over here as well. You know, these subjects are not so much in the mainstream, yeah, and you know we're trying to change that with a show like this, and you know go mainstream not only on radio but on TV as well. But I do understand what you're saying with the commercialization, but you know it always strikes me that America seems to be a lot more open-minded with these subjects. But then again, you know, you're the time-served researcher, and you know I do appreciate your opinion.
You know what I will say? I'm talking about Italy, Spain, Switzerland, Belgium. I don't know, maybe, you know, our sister in England is very much related to the way we look at it here. However, you have Nick Pope, who worked for the Ministry of Defense. You have your British files. You have a way of looking at this where you don't ask if it's real. It's a phenomenon. We know it's real. I think, in a way, Kevin, I think it's whether you care about it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And what I like about your research as well, Paula, is you're very nuts and bolts. You don't get into the sort of, well, the contact cases too much. Well, you have researched them, but you don't publish it as much as some other authors who are specialized in that field. You stick with what you know best.
Well, it's hard on me. It's hard on me. I will tell you that I have a master's in education. So when I was working with Dr. Hynek and he was an astronomer, we were dealing only with sightings. And when we would have the contact cases, I would think the people were crazy. I'd say, Alan, why are you listening to this? And well, you know what he said to me? He said, Paula, he said, you need to look at the 360-degree picture. He said, part of this entire phenomenon is dimensional. Part of it is paranormal. And if you don't study that part, you're not doing your work properly. So over the years, Kevin, I've had to open that door because it's part of it.
Yeah.
It's a dimensional phenomenon.
But do you find it's opening up dimensions in your brain that you've not wanted to go to? Because contact is a whole different ball game, isn't it? I mean, to be in the presence of people and the stories they tell you, it's difficult to remain neutral. But it's that fear phase, is it not? Or is it something else? Is it the reason why the government keeps it from us?
Well, you've got like 4 questions there.
I know.
Yeah, it's what I'm thinking. Well, look, first of all, one of the weirdest things that ever happened to me is when I was covering the Dr. Michael Wolff Cruvon case. He was a double agent for the CIA. He was in Hartford, Connecticut, and I wasn't alone. I was with my compatriot, the guy I work with in the Italian desk, Adriano Forgione. We went in together to interview him and see his files and so forth. He was very ill at the time, and we had all kinds of weirdness happen to us there on our way out the door. The thing is that weirdness, I mean, Dr. Wolff talked about contact. He talked about being an interface for these beings. You cannot study this and not wonder what in the world is inside the craft. I mean, that would be total ignorance. What you're saying is it hard to digest? And yeah, it is. On one hand, it's hard to digest, and I can talk about the Italian cases more than the American.
Yeah.
Or the best American case is Travis Walton, and I know him really well. He came to my home in Rome, and that really did happen. He did get abducted for 5 days. He did come back. He did have the experience. So we can't negate that. I have to open my mind to what was inside there and what they were doing. So I think on the contact scenario, I really concentrate more on the Italian cases, because what happens with the American cases a lot of times is that they do the UFO circuit, speaking circuit.
Yes.
And in the beginning, the case is real, and they had whatever contact. But I'm convinced, and this is Paula Harris, this is nobody else's opinion.
Yeah.
I'm convinced that if they were contacted by the aliens seeing them go commercial, said goodbye and went home. They go, okay, that's not what we wanted you guys to do. We didn't want you to go around and just be on the circuit. We wanted you to raise consciousness, raise the awareness
there you go.
of humanity that we are not alone, and neither are they. So if you are not alone, you're part of something greater. Wouldn't that be a great message?
Of course it would be. It would be the best. Absolutely, and just to be able to, that perception of thinking that way as well would change everything. It really would. But like you say, it becomes very commercial, and I wonder how they do view us. But one thing we've got so much to touch on here as well. Well, just before we move forward as well, I just want to say there's not enough women in the field, so I have to take my hat off to you for what you do as well. I mean, yes, we've got Linda Moulton Howe, we've got the people like Dolores Cannon, but it's unfortunate that it's a very male-dominated field.
Yes, we also have Leslie Kane. That's why 2 years ago I had an all-woman conference in Texas. It was just women. It was Carol Rosin, it was Tracy Austin Peters, it was Lisa Romanek, it was it was Dr. Len Kitai, who only does the Phoenix Lights. But I mean, these people, and Carol Rosin does Peace and Space. I decided to sponsor under the banner of Starworks USA. You can go to starworksusa.com, even the website now. It's 3 years now that I'm sponsoring conferences that are mostly women, and then, mostly women, 5 women and 4 men, or 5 women and 3 men. It's just really hard, Kevin. I don't know what to say, because first of all, you got to understand one thing about me, and I really want the audience to understand. I don't do any work that I don't do in person. I do not call people on the phone. I do not do internet research. I do not write articles about internet. I get on a plane and I go there. When I did the Dan Burisch case, I went to Vegas 5 times to do that case, because the first 3 times I had trouble understanding. And anything I've ever done, Michael Wolff, 3 times, I've flown there on my own dime. Any case I've done, Charles Hall case, I did that 3 times. I've flown there, I've recorded it, I've had to listen to them, because my way of dealing with research is what Dr. J. Allen Hynek taught me, which is field research. You look the people in the eye and you watch their mannerisms, you watch their eye movements, you watch if they repeat the story, you see the whole background, and then you risk your career and you bring the story out. So I have 5 books, all interviews, and I've done them all in person.
Yeah, and yeah, you put him on your books as well, the Hynek method of research, laugh, laugh, study, study. I like that.
Well, it's so darn heavy. I mean, my goodness, some of these stories that deal with working in black projects, because I do military pilots, astronauts, and people that have worked in the black ops world. In other words, I do that people that in intelligence community that have worked for the intelligence, and even the intelligence community believes that there's something there, and they want to do it their way. They think we're a bunch of amateurs, and they've even said that, well, you're a bunch of amateurs, we know what we're doing, I wish you guys wouldn't mess with this. But what can we do? I mean, this is not something I think I've chosen. This is something that was handed down to me to do. It's from Alan Hynek, from all the people, from Colonel Philip Corso, and now Paul Halyard, the former defense minister of Canada. I mean, he included me in his book because I've given him a lot of information that he needed of real people that have been involved. So, these people, that what they do is they say, well, if we give you this, if we trust you, you've got to go on with it. Don't decide one day, just to retire and go to the Caribbean.
I couldn't see you doing that.
Well, I'd like to.
Well, yeah.
The amount of money I've spent on this, you can't even imagine. And there is no sponsor. It's come out of my pocket. And
isn't that sad? Isn't it? If there was some sort of event that happened, you imagine how famous you would be overnight. Now, why can't they just help you out a little bit, help us all out? Do you know what I mean? But
I love it. I love it. I mean, there's a donation button, but who they help out are those people that are into the conspiracy thing, 9/11, chemtrails, all the Illuminati, all that. Those people somehow get sponsorship. And even though those things may be true, Kevin, some of them may be true, it brings down the vibration. I don't know what to say, but if I was steeped in, OGMs, or, all the way we're being poisoned and all that, if I went every day with that in my mind, I might as well go out there and just do away with myself. I mean, it's so depressing.
That's it. You hit the nail on the head. They're very heavy subjects. And, I was addicted to all that kind of stuff before, and I still respect it. Don't get me wrong. And you are right. Shows like that do get, I'm sure they have it hard, but it just seems to be because you're not in this ethereal field of ufology sometimes, they kind of, it's not really so much about raising consciousness. It's more about what someone else has done to us and blame. But, again, there is a place for that, and if that's what you want to do, you should be doing what you want to do. But I do hear you. It does get a bit heavy where your work's very, very different, and I think the love of it has kept you going. I do want to speak about the Italian cases, but before I do, who's one of the most interesting people you've ever interviewed?
Well, goodness,
do we have all day?
It's hard. Yeah. It's hard to pick one. Maybe, I had just mentioned the Dan Burisch case. Actually, 2. Maurizio Cavallo, because he showed me Polaroids of aliens he had taken in 1980, who look exactly like us. I mean, I'm going to be clear here. There is a movement in the United States more than anywhere where the only alien is the gray alien and the only thing that's happening is the abductions. Well, that is not true. In the 1950s, we had human-type aliens with Adamski, and Adamski was real. His counterpart in Italy was Eugenio Siracusa, who saw the very same people. I talked to his group. I've talked to Eugenio. I've talked to the people who were there in Sicily who saw these tall blondes with the blue outfits, the blue suits. So we began with in the 1950s with the human type aliens like Gorthon and so forth, with Howard Menger, with Van Tassel, with messages of anti-nuclear, because we had exploded the atomic bomb. And then we had Betty and Barney Hill. And from that point till today, it's all grays. And so it gets nuts. It gets crazy because the human type aliens are not looked at. And later on, I'll talk about the Friendship or Amicizia case in Italy. But you asked me about an interesting case. Well, this has to do with the microbiologist named Dan Burisch, who worked at S4 at Area 51. He was a microbiologist who worked on the survivor of the Kingston, Arizona crash, which was a J-Rod. His skin was gray, but he was not the typical gray. He was a person gray, a person. And what happened was when he walked into the clean sphere, the message that was beamed in Jan Burisch's head was, we are you from the future. On some level, on some timeline, you have destroyed yourselves. I am suffering from a disease. I will stay here until you, as a microbiologist, can take the tissue out and see what you guys can do to fix this situation. Should you go on that timeline? Now, you want to wrap your mind around time travel?
Absolutely. Well, just on that note, we're just going to take a quick break and we'll come straight back to that after the break. The phone lines are open for you to speak to Paula Harris. Do share your opinion. You can call us on 0292 000 3666 or text your comments and questions to 07728 758 759. International listeners outside the UK may Skype the show by adding the More Show live, or you may choose to interact with us on Facebook and Twitter.
The More Show is in partnership with Ozark Mountain Publishing, taking readers beyond the unexplained.
Visit themoreshow.co.uk/shop to purchase products and services from your favourite past guests. If you're new to this site, you can also catch up on the previous television and radio shows through YouTube and the More Show website.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms. Broadcasting from the studios of Radio Cardiff, you're now watching The More Show.
Welcome back. I'm still joined by photojournalist and investigative reporter Paula Harris. Well, Paula, that was a fascinating, story that you was describing earlier on with this military whistleblower. And are you still in contact with this guy?
No, his job was just to talk for 3 years. I think Linda Howe did the story. Bill Hamilton did the story. I finally went there and did the story because I had worked with Colonel Philip Corso, who was the author with Bill Burns of The Day After Roswell, and I had brought Colonel Corso to Italy, and he was in charge of back engineering the artifacts from Roswell, and I began to understand that not only do we not understand our own reality, Colonel Corso told me that the government was working with time travel. He said they had invented a time machine, but he wasn't meaning a physical time machine. He was talking about some kind of time travel, technology that we knew nothing about. And then he added, and a lot of other people have added, that the propulsion systems of a lot of these craft and the dimensionality of these craft have to deal with time. It's an interaction with time and so forth. So when Burisch, who said he was part of the MJ-12 group, half the group was saying they didn't want disclosure and they were fighting with the other half that said it's time. We're sick of this. 60 years. We we better start telling the truth here. That he was with the part that had agreed to release this information to the world. We know for a fact, because a lot of my whistleblowers worked at S4, Area 51, the Groom Lake complex, that there is like a facility 15 floors underground there, that this had been put in place way back when, in order to not only back engineer the technology, but to keep it super secret. I mean, there's a no-fly zone over that area. It's in Nevada. It's in Nevada. I've been outside the gates of Area 51 at least 3 or 4 times, but I met Burisch in Vegas, and a lot of the people that work there live in Las Vegas.
Yeah, but has he sort of disappeared off the scene now?
Yes. If for people that are really interested in this story and want to see what the J-Rod looked like, and want to see what the craft inside the hangars at 51S4 look like, you need to go to Open Minds TV, and you need to download, I think it's 150 pages with diagrams of the Dan Burisch, B-U-R, it's B-U-R, I think it's SCH case.
Okay.
And it's all there. He left that, and he left the scene. That was his job. He did it, and he left the scene.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on then to the Italian cases, because this is obviously of great interest to both of us. So, go straight ahead, please.
Well, Italy's not far from you.
No, it's not.
The Italians have been working, but what everybody, when they think Italian cases, they go, did you ever speak to anybody at the Vatican? And of course, I'm well known for having been a confidant of Monsignor Corrado Balducci. He's now passed on, like many of the people I've worked with. And the Vatican had put out in 2009 a statement with Father Funes, who is the chief astronomer of Castel Gandolfo there, in the Osservatore Romano. And I have to mention this for the people that are thinking that it's against their religion to believe in this, that the Catholic Church formally said in 2009, I think it was May, number one, that the ETs are our brother and sister. If they're brother and sister, they're not gray. They're not talking about the grays. Number two, it is not against the Catholic religion to believe that there's extraterrestrial life, because God in his glory created many races. Well, that's logical. I mean, that's logical. God, if he's going to create humans, he's going to create a whole bunch of other peoples out there too.
That's right.
And then the third thing that blew me away, Kevin, well, this really blew me away, because this is dogma, was that Father Funes said that Jesus didn't need to die for them because they weren't born with original sin. When I heard that, I thought, what are they getting themselves in place for? It's in the official newspaper. So what are they waiting for? What are they going to jump in if there's disclosure and say, well, we told you, we talked about it. We got in there. We know, you don't have to ask us dogmatic questions. So Vatican-wise, I've covered that. The case that I'm working on, and the case that I'm going back to Italy, and Ivan Cecchi is going to mention in the conference in Rome, is the friendship case. The book for the English-speaking people is called Mass Contacts. It's by Stefano Brescia. You can get it on Amazon. And it is an experiment that a group of aliens, human-type aliens, did with the Italians in 1956. The Italians met these beings, very tall. Some were very, very tall, and some were very short, at a place called Roccapia near Pescara. And they had interaction with them. You can go on YouTube and look up friendship case, and the whole details is there. Now, this really did happen. I've interviewed Stefano Brescia. I've interviewed Paolo Di Girolamo, who was actually part of that group of 10 people. I think there were 2 women, and all the rest were young men. And it was the beings who were human, wore regular clothes, and lived in the Roccapia, which is like a very medieval type structure, met with the humans and said, look, we're going to try this experiment to be friends with you, provided you keep a technology called ureda, which means harmony. If you break that, we've got to leave. And at that particular time, what we have to support that friendship case is that we have photos and movies of UFOs coming out of the water right there at Pescara. We have dedicated movies that the Italians were asked to take of the craft. These craft were incredible. They flew right in the countryside, so the beings would say, "Okay, now we're going to fly around, and you photograph us, and you're going to take films," and they did. And then the idea that they would contact the Italians through crystal radio. In other words, the radio was always on, and they would say, "Okay, now we will meet you in the mountains at this time."
Yeah.
They were human type aliens, Kevin, like most of the stories really are.
So wow, that's we'll look for that, and we'll link those YouTube clips up to this show as well. Yeah, I mean, there seems you've researched many different races here as well. There's not obviously like you said before, just one. But I've seen some pictures on your website where they're sort of like 15-foot giants.
Yeah, yeah. The thing is, Kevin, if we could all go to a university and we could study this. I was just on the island of Sardinia in November, and they're showing me huge teeth and 15-foot skeletons that these people have on their land in these tombs. And they bring out their the grandfather and the uncle, and they're telling me that in Sardinia there are tombs of 15-foot giants. But they have been warned not to talk about it. They've been warned that this isn't part of regular anthropology, and they've been warned to get rid of. Some people have come in and taken the artifacts away. On my website, there's a picture of me with the huge tooth, and it is not a bovine tooth. And they showed me a femur, and it is not an animal femur. But maybe if we would study this the way we're supposed to, and I know it's outside the box, our mythology of the Titans or our mythology of the giants of ancient days would make sense. Because maybe what happened in that area of the Mediterranean was that we were visited by quite tall people. And one of them in the Amigita case was he was about 11 or 12 feet tall. You can see because the tree is under his elbow, and he's a real person. So, I mean, what we have to do is open our minds.
Yeah, we do. But I think what it scares a lot of people to, they're stuck in the dogma of, having to pay their bills and get by and everything, and you're classed as being a bit silly if you talk about other things, which is a shame. It's a shame that it's perceived like that, but maybe that's part of the way of doing the cover-up. Maybe that's why the cover-up sort of worked for so many years.
Well, you're really correct. I'm glad you brought that up, because my own kids won't talk about it. They say, "Mom, what does this have to do with us? I mean, we have to go to work every day." And what I say is, it's not religion. It does nothing to do with you. You don't have to do anything. You're not supposed to convince these people. But we're intellectual, academic people. I mean, I've got a master's in education. I've been a teacher of honors English and history for 30 years. What am I going to ignore this? I mean, the thing is, that's why I mentioned university. I teach online for Dr. Michael Sala's Exopolitics Institute. All you have to do really is look at this. And I was in Sardinia. I met the people. I did the interviews, but I don't do ancient aliens. I don't do anthropology, and I'm not going to start. So what I did was call a History Channel. I called the Discovery Channel. I had them go there. I only do one thing. But wouldn't it be cool if we had a university that would look into this and rewrite our history and look at it from firsthand knowledge and read the books about it? I always say to people, today nobody's reading. They get all their information from internet, and they have an opinion, and that's research. No, God, can you imagine getting a degree in anthropology without ever reading one book?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's, that comes down to trying to be a maverick, or trying to be at least original as well. It's, being original now is not, an in thing, is it? It's looked down upon, which it should not be. And that's why we do the show, and that's why you do what you do as well, and you keep, crusading as such.
Yeah, but I really, being a teacher, I always go, God, if you didn't read 4 or 5 books in this field, I would give you an F. I couldn't give you an A. I mean, where are you getting your information from? Gossip on internet? I mean, you come in and I assign you a 250-word paper and you get it all off internet. No,
Yeah.
I wish either in the UK or in the United States, we would open a sociology department that covers ancient aliens, UFO phenomenon, the paranormal, and dimensionality. I wish we would do that. That's what I'd fit in. I'd fit in there more than anything because I believe that we should study.
Yes.
I mean, laugh. Oh, we can laugh too.
Yes, laughter is important.
Study.
Yeah.
That's what Alan said. Alan used to joke around a lot.
Well, he gave you the key skills to be able to do what you're doing now, and I bet he looks down upon you, and he's probably very, very proud of what you've achieved as well. So, okay, well, with the Italian cases as well, is there any others that you might like just to describe to us as well?
Well, if you go, well, first of all, I'm a Facebook person because I use it, not personally, I use it as a website. There's a young gentleman named Antonio Urzi who films UFOs from his attic apartment. He opens up the window and he gets pure daylight disc like the Adamski craft with the 3 balls underneath, or he gets all kinds of real up close and personal UFOs. Now, I was with him in Mexico City because we were invited by Jaime Maussan to speak in Mexico City. And what happened was that I asked Antonio, I said, you get to see these and I don't get to see anything. So when you cross the street or when you go over to the World Trade Center where we're speaking, can I come with you? And I went with him and we cross the road. He turns around and looks up in the sky. He points to this dot that's dancing around up there. And I thought, oh, how can he do this? How does he see it? And then the Mexican television came out and they filmed it. Now, for those people who want to see UFOs, movies, these are movies. They're not just, he takes movies. Go to Antonio Urzi and you can see he's, for me, the foremost Italian contactee. Now, it's not about it really isn't about the messages or anything. For me, that's seeing is believing.
Yeah, and it's great that you've had that experience as well. I mean, that all, it was your personal experience, and it enforces for you that you're on the right course as well.
Well, you have to be with him to see it, though, because I looked up in the sky and I didn't see anything, and then he pointed to where it was, and I thought, uh-oh. I'm looking up at the sky all the time.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it always strange how when people have taken photographs of these objects, they're not there prior to the photograph being taken, but some process when that photograph is taken, they're captured.
Yeah, but I also think, and we really need to talk to this with quantum theory physicists, that there is a dimensional problem here. What you happen to do, and I believe this with orbs, your listeners will love this. I love orbs. I believe with orbs, you're photographing another dimension. And with that, even though you don't see it, something happened with the digital camera that it froze in another dimension. You photograph the person in another dimension, which I think our equipment's going to get even more sensitive. You could do a little bit more of that.
Well, that is absolutely incredible. I've never, ever thought of it like that before, so thank you for that and sharing that with the audience. It's mind-bending stuff. So we're just going to take a short break. Now, the phone lines are open for you to call and speak to a guest or share your opinion. You can call us on 0292 000 3666 or text your comments and questions to 07728 758 759. We have a number of different texts that have come in, so we'll get through them on the next part of the show. And also remember, international listeners outside the UK may Skype the show by adding the More Show live. So stay tuned and we'll be right back after this.
The More Show is in partnership with Ozark Mountain Publishing, taking readers beyond the unexplained.
If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The More Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms. Broadcasting from the studios of Radio Cardiff, you're now watching The Moore Show.
Welcome back. I'm still joined by photojournalist and investigative reporter Paula Harris. Paula, one of the abductee cases I'd like to speak about, and I know this is some of the work that you've done as well, is with obviously Travis Walton, and just briefly tell the listeners about Travis Walton and your time spent with him.
Well, I think Travis Walton is one of the best cases ever because Travis Walton's case is very nuts and bolts. It happened in Snowflake, Arizona. He was a lumberjack. He was with six or seven other guys, and they were coming back from having cut trees. They saw a UFO, a huge UFO that it seemed like a forest fire in the forest. The truck went up. They saw it sitting there. They saw it. It was a very close range. Travis, who was very young at the time, jumps out of the truck, goes under the craft and starts waving to it, and then a beam of light came, and it was so strong that it threw Travis in the air. And when he came down, his friends thought he was dead. So they were very scared, and they drove back to the city, and they told the sheriff and the law enforcement people. And when they went back to find him, he was there and gone. He was gone. They couldn't find him. So for 5 days, those guys were taking lie detector tests and were almost persecuted for murder because the law enforcement people thought, the sheriff for sure thought that he had been killed, and they had killed him. He appears 5 days later. And has a beard, and he doesn't even understand. This is the time problem. He doesn't understand he's been gone for 5 whole days. Now, 2 of the people that were with him have come forth to talk about it. So if you go to study Travis Walton now and you go on YouTube, you'll find Steve and another gentleman who was with Travis have come forth, and they talk about their involvement. Now, why that's real is Travis has never changed his story. He is not commercial. He's been invited everywhere all over the world. Paramount made a film that is not very accurate about this case called Fire in the Sky, because then it shows Travis being taken by very weird looking beings and inside, and dead bodies and all this. But Travis said that what he saw were 3 grays, and he was lying on a slab. He had a crystal on his chest. He feels that the 3 gray beings were bringing him back to life, that crystal probably revived him. But he got scared. He took something that looked like a flashlight, was going to throw it at them. They calmly left the room. He went into another part of the craft where he saw 2 blondes. They looked like twins. He tried to talk to them. They took him out of the craft into a hangar, and that's where it gets confusing because he thinks that may have been a military hangar. And he said from that point on, he went out, he went under. He doesn't know what all happened to him. When he woke up, he was on the road. They had left him on the road, and they went away. But Kevin, I just told the Fire in the Sky story, but one thing I want to be clear, because people that go, berserk about abductions don't understand that human abductions, they don't put you back. You're not alive. They usually kill you and throw you in the dumpster, and they usually do something to you. So yes, abductions, or what we look at the abduction or contact scenario, as Dr. John Mack put it, and I prefer to go with his theories, is done for some reason, though we don't know what it is. But they usually put the being back, either in your bed, or in Travis's case, they left him on the road so he could be found by his relatives.
And I understand it was quite an emotional reunion with his, with some of these guys that were with him at the time, at one of the conferences that you was at, I believe it was. It was quite, they were quite sorry for leaving him.
Oh, they apologized for, well, I mean, can you see that you would leave too because of the terror, the amount of terror? Right. In fact, one of the men, the lumberjacks that was 23 years old, he was so scared, he cowered. He went to his mother and was crying the whole time. There's a lot of crying done. I mean, this is cosmic cultures that are colliding with the human culture. But again, I'm going to say this because, the abduction scenario is one that scares the living daylights out of everybody. It's contact that may be scary, but you're back on Earth. The only thing is you're not the same. You're not the same because you come into contact with a culture that's very much greater than ours, technologically, probably spiritually, just so much more sophisticated.
Yeah, and like you say, with the Paramount film, they made it quite scary, but actually, it was just Hollywoodized in a sense.
Well, it has
Yeah,
to be. Yeah, I mean, they
yeah.
had to be. Travis is really angry about that. He wants that film remade. He wants to remake that film.
Well, who knows? It may happen. Now I've got to get through some of these texts as well. Now Steve from. Steve from Allenby from Grimsby is asking about crash retrieval cases, but I don't think we've got the time to go into anything in detail. But has there been crash retrieval cases for Steve?
Yeah, I'm speaking at MUFON in Las Vegas about a brand new crash retrieval case. Okay, so it's the 1945 San Antonio crash, tells Steve. It's on my website, so he can go to www.paola, Paola Harris.com. I did the interviews. It took me 3 years. I just finally filmed the site, and the actual black soil where the UFO landed is still there. So this happened in 1945, 2 months after the atomic bomb exploded, 30 miles from Trinity White Sands, New Mexico. That's the new one. That is before Roswell. So if he wants to go on my website, that's brand new. I'm speaking at MUFON on the international meeting, which is on crash retrieval.
Okay, and another question from Patricia M, and I think that if I can get this name right, it's Hogsthorpe. I think that the town where she's actually listening in right now. Thank you for listening. The question, is will we ever see disclosure in our lifetime? And I think I know what you're going to say to this, but I'll let you answer it.
Oh, Patricia, I have been working so hard 30 years. I think we're doing disclosure. I think disclosure is happening in our lifetime. If the general public would just accept it, forget the politicians. They have a vested interest in not doing disclosure. But if the public, the general public, the young people, the universities would understand this is real, we have disclosure. However, let me add really quickly, I want you to see the Sirius movie, the Sirius, Sirius. It's online. I'm in that film. I worked with Dr. Stephen Greer. It's got not only UFOs, it's got the free energy problem. It's got everything in there, contact protocols, everything. Sirius, Sirius. It just came out. That's disclosure. The other thing, I attended 4 days of the citizen hearing in Washington, D.C. Those 6 people, former Congress people, in shock. I was watching their faces after 4 days and 40 witnesses, all military, pilots, astronaut Edgar Mitchell and everything. Those poor people, 3 males and 3 females. Go to the citizenhearing.com and see those videos. I felt sorry for them because here they thought they were going to just see sightings. And when they heard, this one pilot saying he shot 46 rounds at a UFO. Oh my God. It just changed their reality, and they want to do something. So that's disclosure.
Yeah, absolutely. Your disclosure as well from the work that you do. I mean, it's all. It seems to be that good researchers like yourself, they're allowing it to sort of happen in a way that we're sort of disclosing it back to ourselves. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, Kevin, what you're saying is there's information. What you're basically saying, if I understand you, is there's basic information out there of true things. It's not fantasy.
No.
There's basic information. You want to see something else other than sightings, then go to the the former Minister of Defense of Canada. Look at that on my Facebook and see what he says. I mean, he's called military people. He wants this out. And basically, the blockage or the thing that doesn't want it out is the fact that these craft do not use oil and they do not use gas, and they travel, and we have the technology, they travel in a way with electrogravitics that would destroy our petrodollar. And that's what Stephen Greer says. I mean, we can't destroy the economy, so we got to live in an illusion. I mean, we could save the earth with this new technology that's being held back from the people until the right time. I'm sure it's got to come out eventually, because we won't be able to live on dollars forever. So we all have to wait till their timeline is ready. And that's basically the bottom line.
Okay. Now, there's a number of other texts. Sorry, I'm not going to get through them all. I do apologize, because there's just a couple of questions I want to ask as well to summarize this interview as well. Now, you mentioned at the beginning there about a raising consciousness, and I think that is key. But what is, first of all, the cosmic message that, as you understand it, that's coming through from the contactees?
Well, first of all, to define consciousness is being aware that we live in an interdimensional world. We're not just skin and bones here. I don't know what subjects you cover, but it's that the human spirit, the human soul, whether you go into reincarnation, the paranormal, or whatever, it's all part of it. You can't eliminate that. That's what all of this is all about. So as far as the messages of the contactees are all different. However, the raising of consciousness is the only thing that'll evolve man. Do you think these people that are looking at us think we're very evolved? Do you ever watch TV? I mean, I see so many dead bodies, blood, and murders on TV. I'm thinking, oh, please, if there's aliens out there, don't think that's us, because that isn't the way we get entertained. That's just what's on TV. The raising of consciousness is understanding that we are more than just flesh and bones. We belong to a cosmos that is teeming with life, created by a creator that wants us to hook up with our cosmic neighbors, to travel among the stars, to get off of the special interests, and to explore the universe, which is what NASA was supposed to do in the beginning. And we can do this if we all open our minds.
Okay, and how have you been spiritually changed through all the work and years that you've put into this?
Well, what I realize is that I can't make any judgments on anything, because I have no idea what's going on. I mean, the bottom line, I have a human brain. These are beings that are so far above us. How could I possibly use my human brain and make a judgment on whatever the alien presence is? And as far as good and bad, let's get off those words. Those are religious words. They are just alien. I mean, what are they going to look at humans and say, are humans good or bad? If they watch our TV, they'll think we're all bad. They are beings from other places, other dimensions, that are watching us at a very key point in our history, especially with the technology we've developed, to see if we make it or break it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I suppose you can't go on the journey that you've been on and not be a different person.
Oh, well, no, I'm just, the thing is that what I've learned, because I was so closed-minded, but then I didn't understand in the beginning when I was working with Hynek, how could I? I had nothing in my youth that even went close to this. I started at 30 years old, and I'm thinking, just keep your mind open, because sometimes the weirdest explanation is the truth. And even though I can't grasp it because my data bank won't do it, my brain won't go there, it's probably the truth. And so what I do is just black and white. That's my books, all 5 of them. I just put word for word what the witness tells me he was involved with, word for word, without any judgments. So how do I change? I don't make value judgments. And I support the quarterbacks in the UFO field, because if they win and score a goal, we all win. There's too much infighting. There's too much arguing. There's too much, name calling. It's ridiculous. If we could sport, and in this case, it would be Dr. Stephen Greer with the movie Sirius, Stephen Bassett, with the citizen hearing, anybody else that goes out there and tries to get disclosure, we need to be the team so they turn around and see us behind them and they can score this goal.
Well, I love your thinking, and you're very admirable what you're doing as well. Your website as well, Paula, just one more time.
Well, there's two. There's starworksusa.com, and we're having a media convention, honoring Dr. Hynek in May 2nd and 3rd of 2014. Love to see people there. And the other one is Paola, because I'm Italian, Paola Harris.com, and it's in 5 languages. So you be okay if you speak another language and want to go there.
Excellent. Well, we'll put all that and link that onto the show and to our webpage. And I just want to thank you so much for joining us tonight.
It's been a pleasure. It's been really fun. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you so much. Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on The More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.co.uk. So until next time, be safe.
Visit themoreshow.co.uk/shop to purchase products and services from your favourite past guests. If you're new to this site, you can also catch up on the previous television and radio shows through YouTube and the More Show website.